guess what? It's my birthday week! I just turned 35 on October 29th, and so I wanted to celebrate also with you guys, because I am
becoming semi-expired spinach. That's what this is? Cool.
Anyway, I've got cake, candles, a whole shebang. I love birthdays, you know, celebrating one more year on this beautiful earth. And I also love cake. I wish I could give you some. It's really good. Alright, let's get started with this video. Cheating husbands. Selfish men who decided that satisfying their corporeal and emotional needs outside their marriage was more important than respecting their partners and the family they've built together. Okay, after doing a few videos on cheating men, and after seeing pictures and videos of Behati and Ariel with their kids, and imagining how hard it must be for them to be dealing with their respective cheating husband scandals, I wanted to understand how all of that can affect them and their kids.
And thus, my geeky soul started wondering,
why do men cheat? Or people in general? Does having kids influence that action at all? How does cheating affect children, if parents choose to divorce or not? And will dealing with all of that in the public eye make it harder for the betrayed partners and the kids to heal and live their lives? Okay, I know the answer to the last question seems kinda obvious, but I want proof. Prove it to me. So yeah, I'm gonna get geeky today with some research, statistics, and graphs, but I'll do my best to make it fun for you to watch, hopefully until the end, because that action helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. So to properly dive into all of that, we need some context in the right order. So let's start with, why do people cheat? Researching about this was wild, okay? Because apparently there are so many reasons why people decide to be unfaithful. People may cheat because they're unhappy or bored, as a form of payback, or simply because they can.
Why do men cheat? Because they can.
Some may have high-risk kinks, as mentioned by one of my viewers, and that can also be a reason why people decide to stray. In the case of men specifically, there is a common point that people express that cheating is considered a male act to prove their worth, and that it's natural for men to cheat because of the notion that men are supposed to spread their seed, blah blah blah. And thus being faithful is such a hard work for men. I'm sorry, as much as I believe in biology and evolution, saying this nowadays sounds like just an excuse. Because to me, being faithful requires a lot of work on both sides.
Throughout history, men practically had a license to cheat with little consequence and supported by a host of biological and evolutionary theories that justified their need to roam. So the double standard is as old as adultery itself.
And nowadays, it's easier than ever to find yourself opportunities to cheat. But that makes getting caught just as easy. And when it happens, it may bring to the surface a lot of the issues that should have been addressed but weren't in a relationship. And while most of us, myself included, would like to simplify the cheating act as just a selfish betrayal,
it doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't I cheat on Ariel?
And how could Adam do that to Behati? They're both amazing women.
well, as we say in Brazil, o buraco é mais embaixo, which roughly translates to the bottom is much lower. Or it's not that simple. Long story short, infidelity is a complex issue, and people may use it to fulfill different needs that sometimes are lacking within the relationship or lacking within themselves. Now let's move on to, does having kids influence cheating? Having kids brings a buttload of changes to a relationship. Women are going through a lot cooking up the bun in the oven, and even more so after childbirth. Let me tell you, postpartum recovery is a bitch. It will be fun, they said. So it's no secret that sex life takes a toll on those early days, weeks, or months. Either because people are tired, they don't feel sexy anymore, hormones are going crazy, low libido, worried about their kids, all of the above. There are many reasons why intimacy is scarce after having kids, but for the most part it's just a phase. But apparently men may be more prone to cheating during that early fatherhood period because they want to feel in control again of their lives, or feel useful, appreciated, or like they still got it. What a fucking terrible timing to feel like cheating. Anyway, men cheating right after babies show up is unfortunately common, and such a low blow move after your partner gave her body to the cause. Moving on, what does the research say about the mental health of those who got cheated on and their kids? Dr. Dennis Ortman describes those who have discovered a partner's affair as traumatized and named this trauma response post-infidelity stress disorder, or PISD. Research shows infidelity is one of the most damaging transgressions in a relationship, with the non-involved partner experiencing heightened mental health symptoms, including post-traumatic stress symptoms, depression, and anxiety.
We have a romantic ideal in which we turn to one person to fulfill an endless list of needs, to be my greatest lover, my best friend, the best parent, my trusted confidant, my emotional companion, my intellectual equal. And I am it. I'm chosen, I'm unique, I'm indispensable, I'm irreplaceable, I'm the one. And infidelity tells me I'm not.
Those who do the cheating are also affected mentally, with some of the feelings being guilt, but usually for the pain they caused, not so much for the act itself.
It's a good thing my wife's out of town.
Embarrassed, disgusted, and I want to take responsibility for my actions.
for the choices that I made that brought pain and embarrassment and shame to me and my loved ones.
Stop lying.
And what about the children? Shame, loss of trust, confusion, resentment, ambivalence towards the betraying parent, and acting out are common experiences for children of cheating spouses. It's terrible. You know, how can a parent cheat knowing all these horrible feelings their actions will bring to their loved ones? I guess cheaters don't usually expect to get caught. Maybe that's why.
My parents never got a divorce, but I always wished they had. Even when they were both cheating on one another to get back at each other, or when child services got involved, or when all the friends and family encouraged them to end it, they still held on. Now I'm 19 and scared to believe that anything lasts forever. Every relationship I go into, I constantly remind myself that in a month, or a year, or whatever, I'll lose them. I wish my parents had just ended it back when me and my brothers were little, that they hadn't made me feel like their love-hate relationship with each other was more important than us.
Alright, now let's continue our deep dive and talk about divorce. After cheating happens, some couples decide to stick it out, but others can't get past the betrayal and choose to separate. If I were in those women's shoes, I would choose dissolution of marriage. Because the amount of disrespect their husbands showed was preposterous and too self-indulgent to forgive. I'm with you, lady, but maybe they had agreed on open relationships and that wasn't public knowledge. But as I said earlier, especially when kids are involved, o buraco é mais embaixo.
You're really going to abandon me without even saying a word?
You insult and humiliate me. I have no choice but to leave you and divorce you. I've changed my mind. I'm coming with you.
But before discussing how divorce can affect children, I want to throw in some statistics here. Because why not? Divorce rates have been steadily declining over the past few years, and that is probably because people are now entering marriages for better reasons. So those who decide to tie the knot nowadays are happily doing so, or at least I hope.
Run, Liz, run.
But it's also worth mentioning that marriage rates have also been declining in recent years. Probably because there's less pressure to follow outdated societal values, which is great. Anyway, divorce is still fairly common, with the general divorce rate estimation being at around 50% in the US, 40% in the UK, and these are the numbers in different countries. Oof. Okay, if you're still here, you're awesome, and I really appreciate you. And I would also appreciate if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video so far. But we could also use a break before moving on to the next point. So here are some puppies and kittens.
It all started when my mom met my dad, and they fell in love, and they had me. Hi.
Baby, you hungry? Say yeah! Stop being a little brat. Stop. Stop thumping. Stop being mad.
So cute. Now let's talk about how could divorce affect children. Separation or divorce can affect children in different ways, depending on what happened that made the parents split up, how the parents responded to it, and what was going on at home before shit blew up. Research has documented that parental divorce or separation is associated with an increased risk for child and adolescent adjustment problems, including academic difficulties, disruptive behavior, and depressed mood. But here's something interesting. General research showed that there was actually very little difference between children from divorce and children from parents that stayed married.
What's really interesting, Paul Amato, who's a sociologist and one of my mentors, actually showed that these effect sizes, actually these differences might be getting bigger, not smaller. He did a meta-analysis where he looked at hundreds of studies from the children whose parents were divorced in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And it was really high, the effect of divorce on children in the 70s, decreased in the 80s, and increased in the 90s again.
And researchers are suggesting that one of the reasons for that is because a long time ago, people were getting divorced to leave bad relationships. But nowadays, many people get divorced for their own benefit, to chase their own happiness. And children may not be responding well to that. Also, the newer generations are much closer to their parents than in the 70s or 80s, which means they feel a lot more what's going on with their parents. So taking those points into consideration, right? For those of you, myself included, who are upset that Ariel is staying with Ned, we don't know the reasons why she decided to stay. Is it because she doesn't want to break up the family? Is it because she wants to be the bigger person? Is it because, despite all the terrible things he did to her, and that also Adam did to Behati, these women still love their husbands, and they want to forgive but never forget? We don't know, but here is something that can solve all of our debates in our heads.
So divorce matters. But there's one variable that determines more than any other how well children function after divorce, and that's parents' conflict. I would say that the most profound finding on divorce in the past 4 decades is that parents' conflict is more important than divorce per se in predicting how well children function. In fact, children whose parents have a lot of conflict and who stay married, those are the children that actually have the most difficulty psychologically and have the most difficulty establishing satisfying relationships later in life.
If those who choose to stay, or even those who choose to leave, will be fighting all the time, then the kids will be affected a lot more.
Daddy, please stop yelling. I can't stand the sound.
Fighting is the main issue, not the divorce per se. As the saying goes, sometimes it's better to come from a broken home than to live in a broken home. And I have never agreed with that saying as much as I do now. With proper follow-up and therapy, there is no reason why those who have gone through such experiences can't live a normal, happy life. So when couples realize they are no longer a couple, no matter if they decide to get divorced or not, as Professor Tamara Afifi said, trying to figure out how you can go from spouses to co-parents effectively is recommended. And also trying to take some of the emotion out of the process so it doesn't affect children as much. Yeah, that's how you do it. But even if parents try to shield their kids from everything that's going on, it's possible they may pick up on the painful feelings the wronged party is going through and understand that their parents feel hurt or betrayed in some way. But when kids have famous fathers involved in public cheating scandals like Ned Fulmer and Levine, where the details are all out, it's inevitable that their kids at some point are going to be exposed to all the mess the cheating parent made. So it's pretty much guaranteed that these men's children are going to need a lot of love, reassurance, and therapy to digest what their fathers did and what it meant to their moms and families.
Being a divorce lawyer has taught me anything, it's that there are two sides to every single story. I mean, that's not to defend Ned at all. I mean, to the extent that he's made a public apology, like, he clearly fucked up. But you know, not enough people are talking about the children, who I think are the real victims here. Being the public figure that Ned is, you know, these children are going to have to grow up with the internet vilifying their own father. They're going to have to learn how to love someone that the rest of the world hates so much. And if the family ends up splitting apart, it'll be because of their own dad, who at the end of the day is still their own father and who they love very much. And I think the children having to live with that conflict is the real damage out of all this. If nothing else, for the sake of the children, don't cheat.
And to end this video on a somewhat positive note for women who have been cheated on, an article from Psychology Today discussed the research published in the Oxford Handbook of Women in Competition that found that the woman who loses her mate to another woman will go through a period of post-relationship grief and betrayal, but will come out of the experience with higher mating intelligence that allows her to better detect cues in future mates that may indicate low mate value. Hence, in the long term, she wins. The other woman, conversely, is now in a relationship with a partner who has demonstrated a history of deception and likely infidelity. Thus, in the long term, she loses. Look, I usually don't like this talk about high-value people, low-value people, but I thought this was an interesting point, and I wanted to share with you today. All the research I've done for this video has opened up my eyes to all the different reasons why people cheat. But still, one thing that hasn't changed in my mind is that going behind your partner's back and breaking their trust, no matter the reason that made you pulled away, is inexcusable. They deserve the decency of you going to them and asking to either separate or open the relationship before you cheat. Is that common courtesy? Like the respect that you have for your partner, for your life partner? Am I wrong for thinking like that? And when you are in the public eye, everything you do is monitored, shared, and scrutinized. So why aren't these famous men not having more consideration towards their families and how their actions can affect their children? Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think is a good solution when people decide that they need to meet their needs somewhere else? How can people help their kids, you know, navigate better, you know, these cheating or, you know, deciding to separate, even if there's no cheating involved? Like, I think these are interesting topics to have a discussion about. You know, maybe we can all learn from each other in the comment section. You know, just remember to be nice to each other, okay? All right, this has been a long one, and if you're still here, wow, I love you. I really appreciate you staying until the end. Does the wig look better now? I brushed it, like some of you suggested.